you know, I mean, it's good that we've got a few target species, lest we become kind of overwhelmed with the sheer project of it all. But we're going to have some wins along the way, or people are going to lose interest. We're going to lose energy and lose interest. And that goes back to what I was saying, that if we only get rid of, you know, half the possums in 10 years' time, people go, we've been working so hard on this and we're getting nowhere and we're going back to square one and let's forget all about it. We could end up with millions of dollars down the tube and lots of people's energy and got nowhere. What's going to be the tipping point?
Well, it might be worth reminding that, you know, the aim of the objective isn't to get rid of these animals because we don't like them. So even though there's a certain number of rats and possums running around, if we can get recovery of, if there's recovery of bird, lizards, whatever, if we can get things down to a level where you can reintroduce species to areas they haven't been before, and then those sorts of things mean a lot to people.
And that, you mean on the mainland, not on islands, not on mainland islands?
Well, that depends what you would... The definition of mainland island would include areas...
Well, I mean, like Zealandia, for example.
Yeah, but people make a distinction between fenced and unfenced.
Yes.
Mainland islands, so Zealandia is fenced.
Yes.
Maungatautari, I think, you know, at the moment is our big gold standard of a fenced mainland island. But there's a number of other places that are... The original concept of the mainland island was pre-fencing. So like Mapara in the King Country was kind of the original mainland island, and that was purely suppressing rat and particularly possum levels down to a level where kokako population could start to increase again. So it wasn't by any means even thinking about eradication at that stage. And to some extent, that's the program. That's why we're sitting here. You know, back in the 80s, that got people really excited. Hey, we can control these things enough. We've got kokako now.
We don't always run out of political will either. New Zealand's been nuclear free for a very long time. That's a sort of moonshot for us. That was a big call for us. It's had consequences for us. It hasn't been costly in the way PFNZ would be, but it's been costly for us, and people own it. We like it. People feel enfranchised. They feel, you know, so this is about getting social license right, getting people's values right.
That's different though, right? That involved not doing something. This involves doing something all the time.
If we don't do something, we're doing something. I mean, that sounds like a silly thing to say, but at the moment, thank you. So at the moment, you know, lots of species are endangered. If we sit here, you know, it's not as easy as you think to make the distinction between acts and omissions, which we often make in the moral case. But here, doing nothing is risking extinctions, and we're keeping going down. It's doing something.
And we can't continue with what we've been doing. The PCE report about the decline in our biodiversity clearly showed they're declining. So we have to do something. So status quo, what we're currently done or what we've done in the past, is not going to preserve the biodiversity of New Zealand.
Why? What does it matter?
Well, it is a values decision.
But what does it matter?
Well, we know that 85% of New Zealanders want to protect the biodiversity of New Zealand. So for me, that says that New Zealanders care about New Zealand nature and want to protect it and understand that there's a problem right now with pest species.
So a third of New Zealanders think life is sacred, and 85% of New Zealanders want to protect the biodiversity, and some of them just aren't making the connection.
Yep.
Right.
Quite common. Again, people are irrational.
Don't you think, though, Kim, there's a real opportunity here for science communication? Because this is actually about people have values, but informed decision-making is actually really critical here. So if people understand, you know, what's the evidence for particular ways of doing things, and that actually helps them think about what are the costs and what are the benefits of different ways of going about killing animals, for example, or what are the costs and benefits about different ways of achieving predator-free 2050. And I think that that's a really positive thing. So, for example, if we have we try and eradicate possums, we get down to a 20% population level, but we can't get rid of the last one. Yeah, you know, people can say, okay, that's a fail, but maybe that's actually a fantastic opportunity for scientists to communicate and say, well, why is what actually is happening when we get down to 20% possums? Have there been biodiversity gains? What actually are the benefits that have accrued from actually getting that far? Because then I think people, instead of going away feeling really despondent, they can say, okay, so now I understand what my actions have achieved, and then I can make a decision about whether I want to continue or not. So I think having scientists talk about what all of these things mean, an evidence-based framework is actually incredibly useful when
You're saying it's about the journey and not the destination.
It's absolutely about the journey. The destination would be great. I mean, no one likes to think that they're going to Rome and end up in Singapore, but hey, you know, it's still not New Zealand.
I just leave that on the table, ladies and gentlemen.